Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, the topic of today is data spaces, how they can help farmers, and really, my idea is like to have an open discussion. I will present something, but really, I will be very glad that if you can take note of some question you have, like maybe not all the concept will be familiar for everybody, and I will try to keep the technicality to the minimum. I will introduce just a couple of concepts that I think they're useful for understand later topics. So so yeah, to start, I wanted to present you. Marcello is a regenerative farmer from Italy, and 5 years ago he starts to implement some regenerative practices, and so cover crops, rotating pasture, composting, different type of practices, and he's very proud. He starts seeing some results. The soil start coming back to life. Also, the animal, like they're more healthy. Like in general, he really feel connected to the work he's doing because it's also sustainable for the environment, for nature. But it's not all roses and flowers, and when he starts to apply for some regenerative labels, he gets faced with what the reality is for farmers that want to implement this type of practices. So mm, despite weeks of digging up records, trying to provide everything with picture, forms, certification, like still the proofs are not enough, and is not able to show the value is adding with extra care that he puts in his work to try to be in balance with nature, and as well as he gets to lose some market opportunities because providers they are not entirely sure about the process because you cannot really verify them. So even after a lot of paperwork, it's still difficult to prove the work he's doing and how he's doing it. And as well as the data is a big concern because the farmer has either two option. He gets his data from himself, so data gets siloed and basically become useless because it's just for a small farm, cannot spark any other connection, or data can be shared with companies, but most of the time the transparency is very low and it doesn't really get anything from it, or is very little in comparison to what it provides. And so you really is stuck with a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy, and it's really not the life he envisioned when he wanted to become a farmer, because yeah, most of the time he spent it in paperwork and filling in forms, while he would want to be on the land, just working and cultivating his passion. So like how can data space help the farmers? And before introducing data spaces, I think it's important to introduce the concept of Web3. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but since Google launched in 1998, like the web the web landscape changed quite a lot. So at first we were talking about Web 1. So it's the web of links, basically the normal search you do. So it's quite a static web search. So you just search for some links, you have some website. There is not much interaction from the user. From this paradigm, we switched to the Web 2, so the web of social network. So first with Facebook, then Meta, Instagram. So it's basically uh, a first moment where we starting to get a little more aware of data, not to the extent that maybe it would be helpful, because all these apps were free. So like Instagram, Facebook, like we don't really put any money in this, and the reason is because we are kind of the one producing the product. So all the data are kind of the gold of this system, but they are all centralized and in the hands of big tech, Google, Apple, Amazon, And so from this paradigm, we are now jumping into Web3. So from a centralized way of managing data, we are passing to a decentralization. And the idea is really that this is the web of ownership. So you put your data, you are in control of your data, and you can track them and decide who can access them. So here there are first concepts that I think they're useful to introduce. So there is this blockchain that is often linked just with crypto, but it has a lot of potential to do much more than that. And own, control, monetize, these are concepts I will go deeper in the next slide, but they help to see how from centralized and really there's the value in data is not really seen. Here we understand and we are now understanding how the data is the real value and the real currency that now is ruling the world. This is also a nice representation I found. So basically from when the internet was discovered, we passed from a static, read-only, just access webs to a more interactive way of approaching the internet. So with social, and now we are in a phase where not only we can interact with social, but we are also protected, or we should be protected by a trusted layer. So the trust and verifiability of data is very important. So yeah, to introduce blockchain, I know it's can be a bit complex topic, but I will just introduce a few ideas that will help you understand better later. So when we talk about blockchain in data spaces, we are not talking about crypto, which I mean the tool, let's say, is the same, but an interesting byproduct of blockchain is that is an immutable data record, and so this is also why all the crypto are quite safe, not in the stock of volatility, but like in the way the money are managed, because indeed blockchain is an immutable data record. So for you today, I want to just to take this idea, and so the name itself, it kind of suggests what it is. So it's basically a chain of blocks, but one might ask like what these blocks contain, and these blocks contain immutable data. So every block is as a timestamp where the information, the data is like registered at that specific time, and this information is not mutable, or better, you can modify it, but every single modification it will come in the blockchain. So thinking about it in the farming, if some visits or some vet logs are like modified, and at the end of the chain like something happens, that will be the first place where like some investigation will happen. So this is where like blockchain gives a lot of safety, and it provides really an interesting way of managing data. So really from Web3 and blockchain, I just want you to keep these two concepts. So Web3 is the web of ownership, and blockchain is an immutable data record. So now with this concept, we can look at the first definition of data spaces. So a data space is a secure and trusted environment where organization can share and access data under agreed terms and conditions while maintaining control over their data. A representation that is usually helpful to visualize it. There are a lot of actors in this, but the all important ones I want you to focus are like the data owner. So basically, it's who put the data, and it's very important. This I don't know, can you see the cursor? It's very important that this part they use usage policies, because when the data owner introduces data, is not only introduces data, but he also introduce some agreements and condition that who wants to access the data need to comply, need to be compliant, so need to respect this condition he sets, and then we have a different actor, app store, also called marketplace, vocabulary like for translate all this information. But really what is important for you is just to imagine this space as a space where you enter with a digital identity. So you are like just your ID, physical ID, you have a digital one. And with the digital one, they come all the permission you have or don't have. So um, when you want to access some data as a data user, you will need to respect this condition and to you will be able to access only just what the data provider wants you to access. So I think the keywords are these three. So trusted, because all this system is like enforce all the policy like GDPR, EU policies are enforced by a trust framework, and Manuel will talk more about it later. It's important also to notice that it's an access of data. Like the data never leave your place. You just give access or deny access. So this is also very important because one question that many times is asked is like where my data goes, where is it stored, and the data really never leave your company or like your storage, let's say. And also control is a very important word and very connected to the access because at any time you can decide to grant access or deny access in real time. So this goes back a bit on the web of ownership. Every time you're in full control of what you can do or what people can do with data. And I think to understand even better the concept is interesting to introduce the data room. So basically, this is kind of a physical representation of what happens in a data space. You have the keys of this room, and you decide who enters, and the data is on the table. It never leaves the room. So you decide how we can access what it can access, and yeah, this is like a metaphor I took from Roberto Garcia from AgroSpy that I found it very very insightful and very easy to understand. So basically, here the idea is really that the data never leaves your company, but you really simply grant access or deny access in case some policies are not met. And so really you're always in control of who can enter, what they can see, and what they can take with them. So talking about data space in RegenAg, in regenerative agriculture, we can think it as a community first tool because also our idea is really to build this data space in collaboration, co-creation with the farmers. I hope there are some farmers, but the idea is like to really get their feedback and see. This is a bit what we envision, what we think might be useful, but of course maybe the problems are other. So this webinar is really the goal is to try to have a talk to see what works and what is really needed. So it's interesting because data spaces can be integrated seamlessly in the workflow of farms without really changing anything. So it can help you keep track of your farm work automatically. It can keep sensitive data private because, for example, you might want to share the situation of the livestock, of the animals, but you might not want to share their health state. You can do it like you can anonymize all the personal data to keep your privacy. And it's also interesting because we talk about community, and which is for farmers a really important matter because I mean, farmers like are as the highest tax of suicidal, like in work, and it's often because they put a lot of passion, they put a lot of work in what they do, and they're not recognized, they're not rewarded. Like in the food system, it's often said that everybody earns, but the farmers that in the end they are the one that put the real work. And so data spaces can also create a sense of community because data or farms from that share similar conditions, similar weather, they can also be open in sharing some practices so that someone that want to start out regenerative farming, he can also start not from zero, but have a base that can help you getting in this world. And also very important that it only connects you with trusted actors. So only people that comply with what you agreed, with what you want to share, and nobody that cannot see your data will access this space. So now more specifically, what our solution is, what RegenAg-X. So as Filipe said at the beginning, RegenAg-X is part of the Tech for RegenAt project. And then you'll be able to access all the link if you're more interested in what it is about. And basically, the idea is really that we don't want to add more work to the farmers, but really just to give a framework with an infrastructure that can kind of allow the farmer to connect the dots. So really, you do everything as you do usually. So lab result, field notes, IoT sensor. You just collect data as you always do. But the interesting thing is that as you collect data, this data get registered in blockchain so that without even realizing you have a full history of track without having to do anything more. And as I said, every point is digitally signed and verified. So every sensor, every vet, every scientist in the lab, they have a digital identity. So every time they provide you some data, this data is provided with their identity so that it gives, let's say, a layer of trust on this flow of data. And you always can decide who sees it, cooperative, buyer, certifier, researcher. You're always in control of who's gonna use your data. And as part of the RegenAg-X, we also have a multi-tenant platform called ZERTIFIER, and it's basically thought as an app where you can manage your daily activities. But since we don't have many farmers already have their workflow, their way of managing things, like it can very easily can adapt as an ERP. So basically, it can just provide you the blockchain Web3 part. So you can just use the app you already use, but we will add a layer of safety through blockchain. And also, as mentioned before, I think it's important to know that this project is like supported by Gaia-X and by 80foot. So that really another concern often is that about GDPR, about privacy, but really what we want to show is that data spaces is completely aligned with all the regulation and privacy data that want to, let's say, preserve the safety or the privacy. So this is really an important point, and Manuel will talk more about it. And yeah, all data are protected by blockchain, so really it's not possible to tamper-proof. And on this side is like a funny story that one of our co-founder told us that when they were first getting into this data space and blockchain, there were some people that say, but if it is not immutable, like we cannot modify anything, we cannot retouch some results that are not really what we were expecting. But this is really the point, that this is something that you want to add to show that you do the things right. So you want to give an extra value, showing that you comply with all the practices. So it's really something more that you want to add to prove your value. It's not something that you want to do if you are not doing the thing in the right way, let's say. So this is a way to give more strength to your work and the passion you put to make it in harmony with the rest of the planet. So talking about benefits, by the way, if there are any questions, please write in the chat or feel free to raise your hands. Like, I know I'm introducing a lot of concepts, but I really want everything to be clear, so I can repeat it. So regarding the benefits, what the farmer actually gets from this, it gets a lot of time saved. So health records, soil tests, harvest, they don't need to fill any form, paper form that need to be approved. Like, so even more time pass. Like, this is all done automatically because as if the information is introduced, it's already certified. So it's very fast, automatic, intuitive process. You can also gain an extra income. An interesting feature about Web3 and blockchain is that farmer not only has his product, physical product, But this data, since it's trusted, is like verified, it can also be interesting, for example, for some startups that want to, I don't know, like do some studies and prediction on a certain area. So they might be interested in getting this data from the farmers. And so this data can be monetized. Like if a research center want to access, you can give access like with a little amount. So it's also an extra revenue that really doesn't take any more work, but it's really an addiction that for farmers can be very useful. On the other hand, it also gives a lot of visibility because, as we say, the data space is like intended to be also a community tool. So not only the farmer can find like farmers that do the same practices in the same condition, but some restaurants that maybe might be interested in finding specific products, they can access the data space, and so some farmers that would have some problem making themselves visible because maybe they are in a lost area of Catalonia or Spain. Here they can have a, let's say, a floor to showcase the products and how their products actually are healthy and provide to a more healthy food system. As I said, also trust and access is one of the core. So all the regulation or certification are EU compliant. The GDPR is also taken into account, and Manuel with the Gaia-X will talk about it. And it also create new markets, as I say, for farmers because basically they get access to some visibility that before was really not possible because usually the area are very they can be very far from each other and very disconnected. So this is a way of creating a network, not only of community but also like a market that farmer can benefit from. And as the most important is you're always in control of the data. So every time you see where the data goes, and at any time with a click you can decide to deny or access or grant access. And so to make a comparison between what is the current system and what RegenAg is providing. Um, so current platforms, they're not transparent. The data is really not benefiting much the farmers, and there is really a lot of different applications. So it can be a bit confusing for the farmers to use and to navigate all this. And certification is very slow, very expensive, and it's full of paperwork that takes time, as I mentioned. And most of the apps are also not thought for regenerative practices, which are very domain specific. So they really need like some specific use cases for benefit the farmer. And as well as the traceability that is often a problem here really is just a byproduct of how the process works. So as I said, RegenAg is a farmer first application. You keep control of your data. There are no middlemen. This is also an important point. The goal of data spaces is to cut all this intermediary that really don't add anything more, but just slow down the flow and really to make it smoother how data moves and how the market moves. So yeah, going back to our Marcello at the end, at the beginning, when he started adopting data spaces, he find himself with an automated trusted record keeping. So he doesn't need to worry anymore about keeping all the picture, keeping all the vet visit, all the lab, all the paper, and then like needing to meet some deadlines to provide them because everything is done in real time. As I said, there's no need anymore for papers, but it's just everything automatic. The traceability is built in the framework. Market visibility, so you can find new buyers that you wouldn't have the chance to meet without this with extra visibility that data space gives. And most importantly, like he gets to really be rewarded with the value that it provides. That he tried to provide to the land, working in harmony with nature. And most importantly, like, he spent less time on paperwork, and he can spend more time on the land. That is indeed the what he why he started to do this. And so I throw a lot of concept, a lot of things, but really, if you can live with these few takeaways, for me, the webinar will be already a success. So like really, data spaces that doesn't require extra work to the farmer, but is really a way to connect the dots. So all this separate way of collecting data that really are a bit confusing for farmers. Data spaces connects all of this so that you understand why this data is useful, where the data goes. So it's really a way to connect the practices. The goal is really to have less paperwork so a farmer can enjoy more what they like doing. Data spaces also create a new income opportunities. So it's really an interesting opportunity also for this reason. The traceability, the transparency is all built in. You don't need to provide anything more. You just all part of the normal flow of data. And the most important, you are always in control. So at any time, you are in full control of granting or deny access. And so at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So if something was not clear or some doubts arise, like really our goal is like to create this data space with farmers and with stakeholders. So if there are some pain points that we didn't address, like we would like to know more about it and to see what works, what doesn't, and really how we can provide the most valuable solutions to you. And this is the contact if you want to know more about it or contact us. And I will leave to Manuel the floor for talking a bit more about Gaia-X. Okay. I don't know if there are any question already, or you can just write in the chat and we can address them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Gio. Please, can you confirm that you hear me well and can see my screen, please?
We can.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gio. Thanks to Tech for RegenAg Consortium for inviting us, Gaia-X, to be here, part of this webinar. I have really enjoyed your presentation, Gio. Really interesting story about Marcello and his challenges and barriers at an initial point, and then going through the opportunities that data economy represent, and data spaces are probably one of the solutions to get to there. I would like to share with you a couple of ideas around Gaia-X, and which is our value proposal for digital ecosystems in agri-food, being data spaces a subset of these digital ecosystems. I will try to go fast, since I think that the most important thing is going to happen later when you are able to have some kind of conversation. So I will focus on the critical points. What I'm going to do is put in a little context of this agri-food domain, and probably I will be able to put Marcello within this kind of context and environment. Then I will give you some ideas of why is Gaia-X needed. And here the word trust is going to be the key point to focus on. And finally, what is exactly Gaia-X, and which is our value proposal, our value proposition for the enabling of digital ecosystems. So this is the world where Marcello lives. All this agri-food domain, or this agri-food environment full of stakeholders, different actors, and clearly connected to the processing industry, and finally to the final customers through the retail. So this is a complex environment, and when you try to create value in an environment like this one, you need to think about the different dynamics and using data as an asset to get data-driven innovation. But it happens that even the agri-food domain can be also influenced by different I would say, externalities, different domains, different sectors. So we need to think about technology. We need to think about macroeconomics. We need to think about the government, the public sector. We need to think about transportation, sustainability, the Green Deal. We live in the European Commission, and all these externalities are going to be critical when we are trying to create value using our data within any kind of domain, including obviously agriculture or agri-food domain. And here's why sharing data is so important. Why? Well, because all your domain is clearly being digitalized. There is a new value chain where all of you as stakeholders are moving to a new business mindset in which digital platforms are used for the optimization of the entire agri-food value chain processes, creating, as we saw before with Marcello, opportunities around using a real-time digital replica of physical processes. And clearly, data is critical here in this kind of new approach to the agri-food value chain. But if we want to move from data to value, if we want to incorporate data within this digital ecosystem, starting to use data, starting to exchange data, so we can move from this paperwork that Marcello was suffering to a data space environment where data is shared commonly among different stakeholders in a very automated way. We need to trust. We need to feel that we are moving within a really trusted and secure environment. And this is why we need data governance. So moving from data to value means you have to create a digital ecosystem, for example, a data space. You need your data governance to be sure what you can do with the data that has been shared within this ecosystem. And then you can put on those data sets, different applications like artificial intelligence to create a new value or to define big data opportunities around these data sets. This is where Gaia-X comes into play. We have people like Marcello, we have users that have their own requirements regarding how I want that my data is shared. What can people do with my data? How can I monetize my data, as Gio said? So you need to define your requirements, and you need to create agreements so that your data is protected by the kind of requirements and ideas that you are interested in putting on the table when you are going to share your data. So we need to create a trusted digital ecosystem, and you need to create a data governance ecosystem. This is where our Gaia-X standard jumps into the environment, jumps into the digital ecosystem, creating this kind of trusted environment where data can be shared in a very agile way, and all the participants feel secure when they are sharing their data. So why Gaia-X is needed? Why this demand for data spaces? As Gio commented before, this is about ecosystems. This is about community. When you are exchanging data one-to-one, you basically you don't need a data space. There are two peers, there are two parts that are interchanging, that are exchanging data sets and putting even services around this kind of data. But then we move to next level, to a closed community where few to few you start changing things. But here that value happens is really difficult. You need volume, you need the scalability to be able to create value around thousands of participants, thousands of data sets being used, being exchanged, being shared in this trusted ecosystem. And here is where you need this idea of decentralized and dynamic data ecosystems from many to many. And as Gio showed before, this idea around decentralization and the Web3 technology is clearly helping us to define the kind of solutions that help us to create these trusted environments where data can be shared, and not only can be shared few to few, but many to many in an automated way. Here is where the value lies. I mean, we need to create the kind of technical or technological solutions that provide us the capability to share data among a huge environment where a lot of data can be shared and real value can be created, can be built among all the participants. The matter here is, and this is one of our mottos, is that data does not flow on rainbows. So you need infrastructure, you need cloud to create, as we saw before, this trusted cloud, this trusted environment. So you need cloud that is secure and that is trustworthy, so that you can create this kind of environment where data is going to be shared in a very secure and trusted manner. So what is Gaia-X and what is not Gaia-X? Gaia-X is a non-profit association funded by the fees of its members. We are right now around 260 members at a global level. Most of them are European, but we have also members from the United States or Japan or Korea. So it's an international association, member-driven association. We are creating a super community around data economy, trying to fight against these economics of data challenges and helping people like Marcello to create the kind of environment where data, when it's shared, can create real value in a democratized way, so that the data owner and the data provider are in control of their data and have the opportunity to take advantage, even to monetize the data sets that they are sharing with the rest of the stakeholders, with the rest of the ecosystem. So what Gaia-X provides is the standard, the de facto standard, and an open source, this is really important, implementation of a universal trust framework that is going to allow these digital ecosystems and data spaces to ensure that there is a trust between the different participants, the different services that are going to be provided, and all the data exchange, all the data sharing interactions, not only within the specific ecosystem, but even among different ecosystems. That's the case if it's needed, and that's the idea of defining this universal trust framework. We will do this through this is something technical, but we do this through a network of Gaia-X digital clearing houses that are going to be operationalized by different ecosystems and different members and its community. I would like to put the focus on this. Our vision is so enable trusted decentralized digital ecosystems. Our mission is to create the de facto standard, so you can create this. Gio spoke previously about community. We can speak also about federated and trusted data and infrastructure ecosystems. So we develop a set of technical specifications and compliance specifications, which become rules, policies, and this verification framework that semi-automate all the process around the creation of trust. So what we provide somehow is data interoperability in different layers, not only legal one, but also organizational, semantic, and obviously the technical layer of interoperability. And if I would have to put the endpoint here and let you time for the discussion, I would say that Gaia-X value proposition and the role that we play in the agri-food digital ecosystems domain is to create this secure, trusted, and sovereign data environment. What we provided is a trust framework, and through our protocols, we provide a clear and standardized and verifiable foundation of trust. With our identity management protocols and with the decentralized identity management and the self-descriptions, we provide an automated onboarding in this kind of data spaces of digital ecosystems, and then a secure and sovereign control on all the data sets that are shared. We also provide this kind of compliance and governance with our policy rules and specifications, which give the whole community the assurance that the data and services that are going to be accessed meet the legal and policy requirements. Gio spoke previously about different EU regulations that clearly need to be considered when you are jumping into a specific data exchange of different data sets in your specific domain. Obviously, we need to create the possibility of the description of data and services offerings. So these self-descriptions are going to help through our Gaia-X catalog and our Gaia-X federated services to define the kind of standardization to describe not only the data, but also the services that you are going to use, that you are going to put on top of those data sets to create value. And finally, we are going to allow this trusted data exchange. With this, as I commented before, as I explained it before, with this technical and semantical interoperability, we are going to help make data sets and services interoperable among different participants, among different ecosystems. And this is going to be critical if you want to exchange data securely based on these agreed upon rules and contracts. As we saw before, people need to express their requirements and to express their agreements. Gaia-X is going to allow that this is done by a machine-readable format so that in a semi-automated way, people can onboard a data space in a trustworthy manner and with a trust framework that is going to allow that all these data exchanges will occur and will happen in a very secure and agile way. All our trust framework and our Gaia-X standard is clearly focused on our deliverables. I will not go through all of them. You can access all of them in our webpage. But clearly, the most important thing for me is that we are offering to the market and to the agri-food domain an automated conformity validation and verification of the digital governance model to create and to enable this kind of data spaces. We have different benefits for all those farmers, agri-food industries, providers, even policymakers to share data, develop and use applications. And clearly we are able to make this tangible through different examples. And as Gio commented before, RegenAg-X, which is one of our Gaia-X qualified projects, is a really good example of how this can be a reality. And in this case, this data space is going to ensure that data remains private, that it's tamper-proof, and that always under data owners' control. So I will leave it here. I know that this presentation is going to be shared, so more than happy to ask any kind of questions, not only in this Q&A session and that we are going through now, but obviously in the future you will have all my my contact details in the presentation. I'm more than happy to get in touch with all of you and continue our conversation around Gaia-X. So thank you, Gio. The floor is yours again, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you, Manuel, for a very insightful. There are a lot of technical terms, but of course people have your contact to reach out. But I think some technicality now we need to get a bit more familiar with it, because as data gets more important, let's say the little details make really the difference on what is valuable, what is really means to be secure and trusted. So I saw 2 questions in the chat that they're kind of connected. So the first one is from Tim, and he asked how do you prevent data copying? And it's a really good question, because I'll just go back to one slide. Okay, can you see the data room? Basically, data copying is not really a problem, because what happens when you actually decide what can exit the room, let's say, we usually talk about compute to data. So it's really not the raw data that is shared, but it's like a computation of the data. For example, you have a series of data from the land, and you want to compare the conventional practice and the regenerative practice. So what happens is that an algorithm processes all this data, all personal data, all the data that are not shown, and you just get an output. So it's really you never get the full data, you just get the output of what you're interested in. And this is also what like kind of help the mechanism work, because it's not that you get the data once, you copy it, then you don't need it anymore. But every time you can get real access to this output. And so it's always the data is like processed by the algorithm, because most of the time the real value comes from this processing of the data rather than the data itself that can be not of big use. But this elaboration, this extra service on the data is really what's the data space value lie on. And I think also there was another question by Stefan. I think is also a bit connected to this, because what we are talking now, the question is how we are sure that Meta will not break the law and also get access to this data flow. And I would say that first of all, like this is kind of a change of paradigm. So if Meta doesn't respect policies, it will just be cut out from this data market, European data market. So this is an important point to mention. And even after this is always like a process of data, a service of the data on top of the data. So maybe Meta would be more interested in the raw data, but since there is always full control in the user, you will really need to pass by a really difficult to break wall, I say, because it's really you just give access every time. It's not that the data moves. It's really you decide at any time to deny or grant access. I don't know if answer the question, or if you have more doubts, Stefan, you can ask me. Okay. And yeah, also Ines, thank you. I'll pick your question by email. And yeah, I would say like that to make it scalable, of course, there need to be a minimal level of technology in the farm, but you can really just get into simple IoT sensor that nowadays they can get very cheap, because they are thought for farmers that of course they rely on that. So every extra expense is as a really big burden for them. So it's really depending on the size of the farm, also the size of the data will change, but this doesn't prevent them to access this market. So even if they don't provide data, they can still access this market with what they have and what they have the right to. So really, the goal of Web3 is also to break these barriers in a trusted way, in a safe way, that also places with a low income that maybe they don't have the safety of big countries can be tutelated, they can be protected. So in this, I think is an interesting solution. Okay, I don't know if because originally I was thinking about like 12:15, but maybe the meeting will cut earlier. So if there are any questions, we still have 5 minutes to answer them. Or later you can contact me. I can put the contact on the chat, but you will also have the slides to contact me.
Hi, Gio.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Many thanks, Gio. Many thanks, Manuel, for your insightful presentation. I give the room a little bit to David and Amparo to explain a little bit which are the pilots we are doing. And yeah, what do you think? Please, David, Amparo, go ahead.
I guess I can start by explaining the pilots, Amparo, and then explain the rest, the sensory analysis and so on. Okay, so Hello, everybody. Good morning. Here at Food for Sustainability, we're in charge of implementing pilot studies in the Tech for RegenAg project. So essentially, these pilots aim to demonstrate both the effects of regenerative agriculture in soil health as well as animal product quality. And this passes through work of engaging farmers and establishing partnerships with them, making a baseline of soil health and tackling the challenges that we identify using regenerative principles. So I'm thinking, for example, if we detect compaction, if we detect high presence of root rot causing fungi, we will try to improve the soil by implementing cover crops, by implementing biostimulants that can achieve an equilibrium of the soil microbiome, increase its diversity, increase its resilience. And then after certain amount of time, we analyze the soil again to see the extent to which our practices were effective in improving these conditions. This is, of course, focusing on soil, but keeping in mind that we are acting on soil in order to impact the crop that we are growing. And we can be talking about maize for silage, we can be talking about pasture, all of this that will be fed to animals. And in regenerative agriculture, we often hear nutrient density as a key feature of regenerative agriculture for our own food, right? For human food, but animals also require this nutrient density. So by tackling soil, we aim also to improve the nutrient profile of the feed that the animals will have access to. We also aim to improve some technical aspects related, for example, with silage production. All of this so that the consumer can have a product that is as nutritionally sound as possible, but also that has the least environmental footprint. And at the same time, helping the farmer to cut down costs, increase their margins, and their long-term sustainability, marrying environment sustainability with economic sustainability. And from there, the samples that are generated from these pilots will be also analyzed for this nutrient density, which Amparo can talk a bit more about.
Well, thank you, David. Can you listen me? Okay. So yes, apart from studying the soil, we are going to check also how it changed the regenerative practice in the food products, mainly milk, meat, and the sensory properties and the nutritional profile. But more related, this will be in the pilots for some of the products to check if there are changes or not with the regenerative practice. But more importantly, related with this webinar is also what the value that this traceability system of the blockchain, the RegenAg-X system, can give us a traceability system for consumers. And how? Because one of the most important barriers for consumers is to trust on the sustainability of the product. So we are already working with consumers, and we have seen that not for all, because so providing an interface with the with this data directly from the farmer, for those consumers that are more concerned about sustainability, this system is very useful for them to improve trust and probably to make a choice to favor the choice of the regenerative product. So this is just what I wanted to say. You have any question?
Thank you, Amparo. Yeah, if you have any question, feel free to jump in. Like just to give a bit of context, like this is the first webinar we do, and we envision to do more. So this is really the goal of this was just to give some general idea, because we know that many people still don't know about data spaces and what it is, like Web3, all complicated words. So for us, it was really just to transmit some simple ideas, because in the end, if you cannot make understand the idea, it's quite useless. And of course, the more people get to know about it, the more the impact can be. But later on, like, we will have also more technical ones, so that people that actually want to start implementing, they can get more of a technical highs. There is a lot of technicality, but I think if you understood, like, even just 3 or 4 concepts that we explained today, I think that it's already a win for us. And so yeah, no, thank you all for joining, and I really enjoyed it. And if you have more questions, we still have a few minutes.
Thank you, Gio. Yes, is there any more questions?
Hi, yes. My name is Filipe from Portugal. So it's not a question, but just to say that congratulations for all the information that was shared and for all the work that is in development. I'm agronomist, but I came from the medical market. So all the points that you touch now here, like traceability, quality control. So all this makes sense, put all this together and make this available for the consumer, for the market that we need to build. So it's not a question, but it's just my humble opinion about all the things that I hear. And I will be happy to join in the summer school, I think, because I'm near from Idania, so food for sustainability. So in the end, it's just this. Just say that I'm very impressed for all the things that I hear. I already work with this kind of systems, but softwares, let's call like the softwares, but for the medical market, but growing medicinal plants. So bring all this to the agri-food industry is incredible. So thank you so much for this webinar.
Thank you. No, for us, it's really important to get feedback, because really we have our data technical mind, let's say, but then in the end, it's important that actually the people understand why they need this. So really appreciate the feedback, and any other feedback by chat or by email later is really super welcome, because really we want to create this together, bottom up, let's say. So starting with the problem, we want to see how we can help, and how this interesting technology can maybe solve some problems we have now and make it a healthier and more fair food system.
Thank you, Filipe. Thank you, Gio. I would like to end just by acknowledging and thanking once again all the speakers. Gio, Manuel, thank you very much. Thank you for the interventions of David and Amparo. I would like to emphasize this, as Gio said, within Tech for RegenAg, we are going to have multiple webinars depending on the action areas, and also within the same ones. For instance, this, we'll have more series of webinars. The next one, in principle, will be regarding policy and policy review, because we are going to do a policy advocacy campaign. I encourage you to check in the chat the contact form that I submitted, in case you want to be more involved with the project in any of the areas that we are working on. Please feel free to fill the form, and we will reach out to you. And thank you once again to all of you for having the time to be here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye, have a beautiful
Thank you.
day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.